No, you can't. Now you should be able to hear me. Ha ha. Good grief. All right, participants should still be muted. Yes, mute all. Okay. I think we're still streaming live. All right, now we're good. Okay, so a little bit about what's happening on the screen now that everything otherwise is working the way it's supposed to. Our service this evening, you can find all of the prayers that we'll be joining together in either on the screen in front of you, or if you would prefer, we have prayer books that are either underneath your seats or on the chairs or in the pew backs in front of you. Sadie and I are going to be reading the page numbers as we go through the service so that in either case, whether you're looking at the screen or if you're looking at the book, we'll all be together. It's our custom at Temple of Israel to participate as often as possible together to bring a full sense of community prayer. So whether we're reading or singing in Hebrew or in English, as you're comfortable, I invite you to join along to do those things with us. And the final cue announcement that I would like to make is, as I invite you throughout the service to please rise and please be seated, I want to acknowledge that I'm inviting you to rise either in body or in spirit as you're comfortable so that everyone can fully participate as much as we can together. So we are going to begin our service on page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue singing from the book of Psalms, Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, how good it is for all of us to be together on page 128. Continue singing together on page 130. These words from Psalm 95, Lechu Neranana, giving thanks to God for the beauty of all creation.
La
continue singing together on page 138, welcoming Shabbat with the poem Lecha Dodi. If you're looking in your prayer books, we're going to be joining together in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And as we reach the final verse, we're going to be standing and facing the entryway to welcome Shabbat like a bride or a queen. If you're looking at the screen, all the words that we'll be singing are there. So we'll join together, page 138. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor, v'dibor echad, ish miyanu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet, v'litzilah. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mikol haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh machshavat tefilah, ya elai, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, hitzoreri, hitzoreri, tivaorech umiori, uri uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai, halayik nigla, ya elai, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, please rise, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, mo'i v'shalom, atzeret bala, gam b'simcha, u'tzola, tochem u'nei, am segula, mo'i chala, mo'i chala, ya elai, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please be seated. We have one more song of welcome. As we turn to page 142, we welcome the ministering angels of peace to hopefully bring us a sense of restfulness and peace that we all search for on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharim, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Bochem Shalom Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharim, Malachei We'll turn back in our prayer books to page 120 as I invite Sadie and Anne and Sam and Ted and Maria and Ellen to join me on the bima as we kindle the Shabbat lights. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, metzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you. So Sadie, you stay here. Everyone else can listen. We are going to continue with our call to prayer on page 146. I'd like everyone to please rise. You ready? La 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 la.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 148.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreum, balayla, golel or mibne choshech, golel or mibne choshech, bechoshech mibne yom. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Oreyom balayla, golel or mibne choshech, golel or mibne choshech, bechoshech mibne yom.
We'll continue on page 150 in English.
Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Please rise for Shema on page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 155.
Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God.
We'll continue on page 157.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternal Egypt.
Better place upon this land.
Except by joining hands, marching together.
We'll continue on page 158.
Oops.
We'll continue on page 161 at the top. Let there
Be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Adonai, all companions, with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch
Atah Adonai, Hapores Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, Ba'al Kol Amo Yisrael, Be'al Yerushalayim.
We'll continue on page 162 at the top.
Deshamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam beritotam beini ubein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam Deshamru Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam beritolam Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam beritolam.
Please rise for Tefillah beginning on page 164 and continuing on even numbered pages.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Maged, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezran Saram, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atah Rab Le'Oshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Go sit down.
Oh, I can sit down.
You are so ready to do more, and that's what I love about you. We're going to continue on the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And on the bottom of page 175, you are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha v'yira na'avod. On page 177 at the top, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. We'll continue with our prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, on page 178. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Kasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Kasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lecho hashalom. טוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. We'll take a moment for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי, בגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי, בגואלי. Donna says mazel tov. We take a few moments in our service now to hold our loved ones, our family, our friends, who are in need of a prayer of healing in our hearts and thoughts as we are about to say a Misha Berach for them. If you're on Zoom and you have someone you're thinking of at this time and you'd like to type their name in the chat, I'll read them aloud in a moment. And in the sanctuary, as I look your way, if there's someone who you're thinking of, please feel free to say their name also as I look your way.
The Bonner family and Mary Shear. Laura Rose.
Tim Williams and Zev Roglin and Dick Rankin. We say Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll turn to page 371 as we join together in singing Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Ve'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'abotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What I am about to say, I recognize, is going to be controversial and challenging, and I'm going to do my best to do it in a way that is framed from a perspective of Jewish values, both from a historical perspective and also in a way that kind of looks to the future. This week's Torah portion sets up a scene. It's Parshat Shalach Lecha, which is the parsha with Moses and the leaders of the Israelites coming together and suggesting that they need to send a troop of leaders into the land of Israel to scout things out. One of the kind of interesting ideas about this passage and that is happening in the beginning of this Torah portion is that this is one of the times in the Torah that it's not a commandment by God. The people of Israel decide to set out on this journey themselves. And when they do that, they're essentially looking for something that they should already know the answer to. But in the end, we know they don't. They don't internalize what the answer is. What they're looking for is that they're going to be safe. We know from the rest of the entire story of the Torah up until this point that God has the Israelites back. God let them out of Egypt through miracles and showed them a kind of power that was supposed to follow them into the land. And we know from the stories of the prophetic visions of the people entering the land that the land is flowing with milk and honey. And despite that, the people needed to send out a troop in front of them to say, we're not going to do this collectively unless we know that we're safe in the first place. Unfortunately, the spies enter the land, they recognize the land's bounty, and they come back and they say this land is indeed flowing with milk and honey, but they have two other responses that are not the best responses. The first is a group of 11 of these 12 leaders who enter the land, they say, not only are the inhabitants of this land giants, They're way bigger than we are. There's no way we can defeat them, and they look at us like we must be bugs, that we're insects. That's response number one. That's not so good. Response number two is, and even though the land is flowing with milk and honey, the land also devours all of its inhabitants. Also, sadly, historically speaking, Jews have had to ask this question, are we safe, in every place we've ever lived in the history of Judaism. The question of are we safe is a real question that is always a part of our existence. In Spain, 1,000 years ago, Jews asked the question, are we safe? And for about 100 years, we were. In Germany, from the 1700s until about the 1920s, the Jews were relatively safe. And there have been these moments in history where Jews have felt that despite their current safety, that because of their current safety, that would continue indefinitely. And there have been moments in American history where Jews have not been safe. There have been times because of interpretations of Supreme Court law that Jews weren't allowed to run for elected office in certain states. In New Hampshire, in fact, Jews were not allowed to run for office, public office, until the 1880s. Are we safe is a real question that Jews have been asking for our entire history. Today, a Supreme Court ruling made the answer for so many people less clear. And it's not just a political issue. The issue of access to abortion is a religious issue. In fact, only a couple of weeks ago, for the first time in the history of the discussion of this issue, a congregational rabbi wrote a letter to the court suggesting that it's not, as it's previously been discussed, an issue of a rights of definition, but that it's a right that is an extension of the First Amendment. This rabbi is in a congregation in Florida, and their congregant came and has a medical necessary reason for getting an abortion to save her life. And he counseled her that she should proceed with this. And because of the state law in Florida currently, she can't have access to the healthcare she needs to save her own life. She has to leave the state in order for that to happen. For the first time in history, a leader of a congregation has addressed this as a First Amendment right to a religious freedom issue. For a lot of Jewish history in America, Jews have been afraid to talk about issues that are controversial because there was a strong belief that the society around them would either ignore them, which would have been the best case scenario, or retaliate against them, which would be the worst case scenario. I mentioned this last week around the issue of Juneteenth and the issue of slavery in the 1850s and 60s, when the issue of slavery was under discussion in the world of politics and had such big influence on the way things worked in the United States. The Jewish community was by and large afraid to do anything about it because they were afraid that they would be attacked. And so there have been moments in our history where, because of the fear for our own safety, we have been afraid to say something or to act in a way that would allow for justice to come to our society. The Supreme Court's ruling does not ban abortion. What it does is it allows states the right to create a law that bans abortion within the state. It changes the idea that there is a fundamental right to an abortion to that the states have the option to ban it. There's no longer a right under federal protection to seek this. But what this also does is it takes the idea, it takes the Jewish perspective, the idea that the abortion under Jewish law is necessary under certain circumstances, based on rules of pikuach nefesh, of the sanctity of life, which I realize for some people, these things are contradictory in terms, but the sanctity of life of the mother takes precedence over the life of the fetus. And it is religiously a requirement that these procedures be allowed to take place. And so any state that effectively bans abortion is in violation of this right from a Jewish perspective. Almost every Jewish organization today, in a way that does not happen very often, has come to speak out against this Supreme Court ruling. There are a few exceptions. In the Orthodox world, the Orthodox community argues under very certain circumstances for access to abortion, and so they don't like to make blanket political statements around these particular things. But even in the Orthodox community, where the limitations of abortion are much stricter than they are in a lot of other Jewish communities, even in the Orthodox community, there were statements made today about safe access to abortion when it is required. The question of whether or not the people who need this kind of access to abortion are safe is one that we should all be asking. Are they safe? And the ruling has ramifications beyond the simple question of abortion. If you followed the news at all today, which unfortunately I spent too much time doing, you may have heard that 2 of the Supreme Court justices suggested that their ruling today afforded them the opportunity to revisit the previous rulings related to gay marriage. Again, causing me to ask the question, are we safe? What right are they going to examine next? That's up for debate. What right are they going to examine, and they're going to say that a state has a right to take that right away from somebody because of someone else's religious conviction, because of someone else's understanding of the way the world works? The spies, the scouts in the story of the Israelites failed. They came back and they were hopeless. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel offers a different vision of what it means to do in times like these. This is one of my favorite books. If anyone has seen it before, it is a book of essential writings published by Susanna Heschel, who is a professor in her own right, and she's also Abraham Joshua Heschel's daughter. And she published this book of previously unpublished collection excerpts of his writing. And this section is called "To Despair is to Betray." To us of this generation who have walked through the ruins of abandoned dreams and desecrated ideals and have arrived at the gate of the 70s and the 20th century, he was arguing for the civil rights movement and against the Vietnam War in this particular passage, but it applies now, I think, to many other situations that we might find ourselves in. The supreme question he asks is, how does the road sign in front of us read? Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, or to despair is to betray. At the end, his mercy will prevail. The one road sign may be almost everywhere. The other road sign is revealed in the lives of those who would rather suffer than bear falsehood, who would rather be exposed to torture and living in jail than to remain silent in the face of lies, blasphemy, and injustice. When we see the sign in front of us and it says danger, the question is, are we willing to go forward anyway to stand for what's right, to make sure that people who need access to rightful health care are safe? May we all come to live in a world of justice and safety and freedom. Amen. We'll continue on page 586 as we rise together for Aleinu.
Avinu v'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'atein g'dula liotzer b'reishit, shelo asanu kidoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated. We'll continue on page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to hold in our hearts those for whom we have loved and lost, including Jonathan Hoffman, for whom we are in a period of shloshim within 30 days of his death. And we also hold in our hearts those for whom this Shabbat and the previous week are a yahrzeit, or an anniversary of their passing. Sylvia Geismar Wilson, Alexander Donner, Hannah Sachs, James Gantz, and Ruth Jacobson Leff. If there are loved ones who you are holding in your heart and loving memory and would like to share their name at this time before we recite Mourner's Kaddish and you're on Zoom, please type them in the chat and I'll read it in a moment. And as I look your way in the sanctuary. Gail Rose Carmack. Say Zichronam Libracha, may the memories of all those who came before us be a blessing. We'll rise as we turn to page 598 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kedusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all people of Israel and all people of the world. And may God send comfort to those who are mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. A couple of announcements before we conclude our service. The first is this Sunday, we have two events happening. The first is a blood drive, which will be taking place at the synagogue at Beth Israel from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. It's not too late to make an appointment through the Blood Connection, and you can find this link, excuse me, on our either Temple website or in your e-news. If you use the sponsor code that you can see here, or which again you can find in your email or on our website, it ensures that Temple of Israel will receive a $20 donation for each donor. There are COVID restrictions, so donors should go by themselves, and I don't think the children are allowed at the mobile center at the moment. So it's a great mitzvah. Greenville is always in need of blood donations, and so this helps to fill a need as well as in a small way as a fundraiser for the temple. The second event on Sunday is the Sisterhood Get Together, which is part of installing new Sisterhood board members, will take place at 11:30 a.m. Instead of being at the Thompson residence, is now going to be here in the social hall because of the possibility of extreme heat and rain. But there's still going to be a potluck lunch. So, and it's not too late to RSVP either to Joe Thompson or Sarah Miller. Their emails are again on the Temple website or in your email, and let them know what you're planning to bring for sharing for lunch. And even if you're not a member of Sisterhood, please consider joining. It should be fun. And last but not least, I got the announcement officially today, and we actually got a couple of posters that we're going to hang up on our bulletin board. The Greenville Jewish Film Festival, after taking time off for COVID, is going to be back this summer with their Summerfest 2020. The movie is called The Mambo Nicks. The event is going to be on August 28th from 4 to 8 p.m. Tickets are not going to go on sale until August, but they really would like us to spread the word as because it should be a wonderful evening. There's going to be a screening of the film itself, and there's also going to be Cuban food and mojitos and a Cuban jazz band. The Ileana Rose Cuban Jazz Band is going to be playing. It really is going to be, sounds like a lot of fun. A little bit about the film. Lox and Bagels meet salsa and congos in Peabody Award winner Lex Gillespie's joyous and singular celebration of the Jewish love affair with Latin music and dance. Set in New York, Havana, Miami Beach, and the Catskill Mountains. During the 1950s, free-spirited, mostly Jewish dancers from New York City fell head over heels for the mambo, the hot dance from Cuba that became a worldwide sensation. Their love for Latin rhythms earned them a nickname, the Mambo Nicks. I believe, I can't remember who, somebody from the making of the film is actually going to be with us too, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, there you go. It should be a lot of fun. So again, when tickets are available, I hope you consider buying them. It should be good. I'm going to invite our kids to join me on the bima as we say Kiddush and bless our children and Motzi. Please join me on the bima. We'll join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. While you're drinking your juice, we have these words of blessing for all of our kids. We say, Yesimech Elohim Kesara Rivka Rachel B'Leah. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Yesimcha Elohim Kephraim B'Fi Menashe. May you be blessed like the sons of Joseph, Ephraim, and Menashe. We wish all of our children to feel the blessings of being proud of who they are and of always striving to be the best version of themselves with these words of blessing from our Torah. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most precious gifts of wholeness and peace. Say together, Amen.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem haaretz. Amen.
We are going to conclude our service singing another prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom. And then we'll join together in the social hall for an oneg. And thank you to Sadie's family for sponsoring our oneg. I'm excited to join you all. First, one more prayer. Ooh, wrong key. Hold on, let's try this. To Sadie and to your family. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm so glad you're all here. I'll see you all next door. Yeah, big giant piece of it. Yeah, it's true, and I don't think people don't think of it in that respect. It's all everything in the world has to be binary, right or wrong, or this issue only has two options. That's usually never the case, but
people don't think about it in terms of safety. They think about, I mean, like the language that it uses from well, and the crazy I don't even know if they I don't even know if they know. I hope the local record that they were using the same. You're a column. You're a body of choice. So we need to mute if the people are still.
No, it's okay. I almost. Oh, well, I think everyone but Ronnie is gone. That's okay. I also need to stop sharing the streaming.